All right, good evening. How are we doing? This is my second live of the week, but I had to do a live on this because this is extremely interesting as something to follow. Food Dweller, I am well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining me, by the way, guys. I really do appreciate it. Right, okay. Look, so if you're not in my Discord group already, maybe you should join the Discord group. It's the first link in the description down below. Um, so Elon bought Twitter last week, and as a result of him going in and buying Twitter last week, the share price on the day rose by 23% or thereabouts. Now, I was a little surprised. Well, not surprised that he bought Twitter, but it was like Elon doesn't do anything if he hasn't got a reason behind it. And I said within my Discord group that I reckon he has reason. He has to be up to something. And then obviously today, this news breaks. He is offering to buy Twitter. And it's very, very, very interesting. I'm breaking up. Give me 1 second, guys. It might be my internet. Hope it isn't. Watch. Let me just check my audio as well. I might have to move things around. Give me 1 second, guys. No. Okay. Let's try this. Let's try this. I wanted to do this at the airport, but let's see if I reroute this audio, whether it turns out better. Let's do it this way. All right, okay. How is that? Let me put up my gain as well up here. You should be able to hear me a little bit clearer now. Let me know if that's okay. Hopefully, this will be a little bit better now because I think I've got everything as I. That's much better. Excellent. Cheers, Walter. Okay, so like I was saying, this is a bit of a surprise. So last week, Elon bought some Twitter. He took a stake in Twitter worth, a 9.2% stake in Twitter. Now, that's not a significant amount of a stake to have any significant control over the company or within the company itself. So it's a minority stake, but still a lot of money nonetheless. Now, as a result of him buying into Twitter last week, the share price jumped about 23% on the day. We saw that in the trading volumes and everything like that. And enthusiasm, that market reaction that Elon is often able to elicit for people. Then we hear that he was offered a seat on the board, but he's not going to take a seat on the board. And I had a look at who's actually on the board of Twitter at the moment. And it's interesting to see because all this is public information. There are a good number of people on the Twitter board. Anyway. Turns out today he's now offering to buy Twitter outright. And this is quite significant in terms of the fact that if you look at the detail of what he's actually offering, it's really, really interesting. And I question as to why. I'm just going to share my screen really quickly with you so you can have a look and see what the newspapers are actually saying about this right now. So this is the letter that Elon basically wrote. So this is to Brett Taylor. Now, Brett Taylor, if you have a look at who's actually on the board of Twitter, he's the independent board chair, and he's the co-CEO of Salesforce, a massive Salesforce company. Anyway, it's addressed to him, and this is what Elon said in the letter. Chairman of the board, I invested in Twitter as I believe in its potential to be a platform for free speech around the globe. And I believe free speech is a societal imperative for a functioning democracy. However, since making my investment, I now realize the company will never thrive nor serve this societal imperative in its current form. Twitter needs to be transformed as a private company. As a result, I'm offering to buy 100% of Twitter for $54.20 per share in cash. In cash, a 54% premium over the day before I began investing in Twitter, and a 38% premium over the day before my investment was publicly announced. So get this right. This is the impact. The day before he invested in Twitter, well, the price that he's offering at the moment was at a 38%. Look at that difference because he invested literally over the day before. That's the premium that he's got. Anyway, my offer is my best and final offer. And if it is not accepted, I would need to reconsider my position as a shareholder. Twitter has extraordinary potential. I will unlock it. Elon Musk. So I think I don't know whether this came out of the blue, but I said in my Discord group, said, look, this guy is a very clever guy, and I guess when he does anything, he has to do it for a reason. Now he was speaking in Vancouver earlier today, and what I might do is I might link a couple of videos for you guys to go and check out a bit later on, and you can form your own opinions on this. He's kind of talking about the fact that this offer is actually in now. This is if it gets accepted, and we can talk about whether it will get accepted in a moment, because there seems to be a little bit of a, if you're judging by the share price today, there isn't a lot of confidence that it is going to be accepted. Um, but basically, the financing for this actually isn't in place. But and this is the biggest flex ever, right? This is Elon being a billionaire. He goes, I've got enough to do it. He said he's got enough assets to be able to acquire this $41 billion in assets. I mean, that's assets overall. That doesn't mean it's going to be cash that he can get his hands on. But remember, this offer is a cash offer. And that's a significantly handsome premium on the share price right now, which actually, if we go and have a look at, it's trading in the 40s, I believe, at the moment. I think 45 or 46. Let's have a look at this actually live. Twitter. There we go. TW. So $45 a share right now. He's offering $7 a share over and above where it's trading right now. Now, this is really, really interesting. And he's referenced a lot. Now, Fox News have commented on this today, talking about, he's mentioned in here the fact that he thinks it's imperative and it's important in terms of free speech. Now, Fox News have been all over this today because, as you know, Twitter banned Donald Trump. And so this leads very, very nicely and lends itself very, very nicely to their narrative around censorship, so on and so forth. And I think ultimately you do need free speech, regardless of whether you're from the right or from the left. I think when you look at politics nowadays, one of the things that we don't tend to do very well is we don't tend to try to understand the other side's, I guess, point of view. It's cancel this, cancel that, cancel culture. And that's a very, very common theme all the way through the politics, certainly over the last maybe 4 to 8 years, roughly. It's very, very polarizing. And if you don't agree, you're getting cancelled. Whereas I think you need forums where you allow people to bring their arguments and debate it for the merits, and then you can agree to disagree. I think we forget to do that these days. We forget to agree to disagree. And so Fox News have been all over this today, and I'm sure that if we see any tweets from good old Donald Trump, I'm sure that he would have mentioned something today, or at least commented today on this if he's been paying attention. Obviously, Donald's not on Twitter anymore, so I might keep my eye out for this. But anyway, I think this is really, really interesting. It almost feels as though this is almost a little bit of a hostile bid. Now, I did have a look at something a bit earlier on, and I will share this with you as well, because he was asked directly today in Vancouver as to whether he thinks or not this offer will be accepted. He goes, he doesn't know if it will be, whether they'll take it seriously or not. The board are meeting. They did release a statement to say that they are going to have to seriously consider this. I mean, you have to when you have this kind of offer on the table where it's actually for cash for quite a nice premium as well. But ultimately, he was asked today, is there a plan B? Now, in his letter, he said, this is my offer. He says he doesn't want to go with the back and forth, but he did say that there is a plan B if this first one does not succeed. Now, interestingly, he wouldn't be drawn on what that plan B essentially is, but it feels as though he's firmly got his sights set on trying to acquire Twitter. And one of the things that he did say when he was speaking today was he was going to try and keep as many private shareholders as the law will allow. I think the law at the moment is you can have a maximum of 2,000 shareholders if it's a private company that isn't traded publicly. So essentially, what this basically means is if he takes it private, solely owned by him, it will be delisted from the stock market, so on and so forth. But he will try and keep 2,000 private shareholders as well. Who those 2,000 will be if he is successful is anybody's guess. But there was another article in here, and this is really, really interesting from the Mail Online because they had a few bullet points on here that I think are really, really important. And he said here, obviously, he said that this is going to be his best and final offer. I'm not looking to go, with the back and forth on this. It's a 38 premium on the closing price of Twitter stock on April the 1st. So it's quite, it's quite a significant offer that he's put out here. Now there were a couple of other things that he mentioned on here. Let me just see if I can actually find it. Where was it? Because I was looking at this a little bit earlier uh, on here. I would love to know from you guys, whether you think there's any ulterior motive at all for this? Because I'm very, very surprised that I mean, one of the things that he said in here is he said he's not interested in the commercial aspect of Twitter. He's not doing this for commercial gain. If you read what he actually said, and I'll reference something on this article actually, if I can find it. Where was it? He was talking about the fact that he feels as though Twitter's almost kind of like a place where you kind of know what opinions you're going to get once you hit there. And he doesn't feel as though there's room for different perspectives to come together essentially within that. It's one of the reasons why he's looking to essentially buy it. But this for me, let me just see if I can find this thing on here. Oh yeah, he says here, I've invested in Twitter as I believe in its potential to be a platform for free speech around the globe. And I believe free speech is a societal imperative for a functioning democracy. This is what he said in the letter. I would need to reconsider my position as a shareholder if this does not get accepted. Now, look, if it doesn't get accepted, does it mean that you're going to see the Twitter stock price basically tank if he decides, you know what, boys, I'm going to get out now? I mean, we saw a 20% rise in the share price on the day that he took bought into the business. I don't think that him deciding to basically sell his holdings just because he couldn't get control over the company would mean that you'll see the share price basically tank. I mean, fundamentally, Twitter is still a solid business. This changes nothing in terms of the fundamentals of the business as an investment. But it's interesting that he takes that line and he says that because he literally just put money into it last week. So in my mind, I'm thinking, so did you know beforehand what you now realize to be true? Did you have an inkling? Or is this completely a surprise to you where you're now thinking, hang on a second, I'm going to try and buy the entire company because I think that it could do a lot better and we need more freedom of speech. I don't think that you come to the decision of buying a company like Twitter overnight at the cost of 41 billion. He's way too clever for that. Surely he had some kind of inkling or he knew what he was doing last week when he bought shares in the business. This is really, really, really interesting. It will be I'm going to monitor this to see where it basically goes. I said in the Discord group, I think he's got bigger plans. And whether the bigger plans, I don't personally see how that would tie into things like, Tesla or Starlink or any other ventures that he has. But I definitely think he has much, much bigger plans as to how he arrived at this point right now. And I'll be interested to see what other people think of this. But this is, for me, very, 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 very interesting news. But the biggest flex ever, just saying that what the finance actually isn't agreed just yet. I think I've got enough to be able to cover it. Is well, that's just boss stuff, really. To be honest, that is the biggest flex there is. What do you guys think? I know that there's a couple of comments in here right now. Also saying, I wonder if the deal goes ahead, what happens to the alternative platforms that were set up in the name of free speech? I also wonder if his plan B has anything to do with alternative platforms. It's interesting because I mean, Donald Trump's platform, I can't remember what it's called now. I mean, they didn't have the smoothest of launches. I'm not necessarily following that right now. But I think, you do need free speech. Obviously, you can't have an echo chamber of the same kind of opinions swirling all over the internet. That's where you do kind of, you talk about Russia right now and Ukraine, right? um, State media controlling the narrative. So you get into this environment where potentially you live in a bubble where no inside information gets out, and therefore you're controlled, you're manipulated, you're a puppet because you're being fed the information that people want you to hear. You don't get the full 360 or both sides of the story. So I can see this for sure. Um, but it will be interesting to see what happens moving forward. I don't know too much about why and how. I mean, I was looking at his Twitter account a little bit earlier on, and this question intrigues me. It really, really does. So he says here, and he was replying to a few people. Interesting. Just two questions, if I may. How much of Twitter does the kingdom own, directly or indirectly? What are the kingdom's view on journalistic freedom of speech? So whether that's referencing Saudi Arabia or one of the kingdoms out in the UAE, I don't know. In the Middle East, I don't know because I couldn't find as much information trying to, kind of come on live here. But if you have outside external forces, given where you are with the geopolitical tensions across the world right now, specifically, then media is crucial for that. I mean, just this is crazy, right? Look how the retweets and everything are just ticking up. That's it's nuts. Elon Musk. This is the power that this guy has. But it's true. If you do have people who have invested in the company and they have a say in how you Twitter things. One of the things that he mentioned actually speaking today in Vancouver was he thinks that the algorithm behind Twitter should be open sourced, so that you can openly see whether a tweet on an opinion or a subject is being, I guess, subdued in any way, shape, or form, whether it's being pushed by the algorithm or suppressed by the algorithm. He goes, we need that transparency across the platform in order for there to be true freedom of speech and I guess journalistic integrity, I suppose. So it's going to be really, really interesting. I think they were meeting today apparently to consider this. I guess we're going to hear news tomorrow, but a lot of people are not confident that this is going to be something that they will consider, but they have to consider it. This is a cash offer. And again, if you look at the board on Twitter, I mean, all of these people are extremely wealthy. So look, the decision making is going to be. I mean, these guys are meeting. They've got a tough call to essentially make. I mean, there are some titans in there, to be honest. So let's see what happens tomorrow. Let's see what happens with the news. Let's see whether Elon has to go to Plan B. Whether he actually discloses what Plan B is going to be. I mean, if this doesn't get accepted, then we're going to find out what his Plan B is very, very quickly. But it's very, very interesting to see what's going to happen here. And it will be interesting to see if he does succeed, how does Twitter actually change? Like, what kind of changes will he actually introduce? Very, very interesting an angle to have a look at. But anyway, let's have a look and see what we've got here. He wants an edit. He wants an edit option on Twitter. He should launch his own social media platform to compete with Twitter. That would be interesting. That would actually be very, very interesting. To be fair, he's got the resources to do it. I wonder whether you would. I mean, one of the big benefits of buying an existing platform is you immediately inherit the user base straight off the bat. So I don't know how many people actually use Twitter on a daily basis. You're also going to generate, inherit all of the revenue that actually comes through the business. So you're, in opposed to you starting from fresh and having to work, five years maybe to get to those numbers, you're taking on the whole kit and caboodle, which means you get a head start. But would he actually launch one? He's got the resources to be able to do it. I mean, if Donald Trump can do it, he can definitely do it. It will be interesting to see what his platform would actually look like if he did decide to do a social media. I mean, personally, I would love for him. I would have loved for this to have been Facebook, because I'm telling you what, Facebook, Instagram, they're a little bit old now, but by God, do they need to be shaken up? By God, do they need to be shaken up? Like, big time. I would have loved this to have been being Facebook or Meta. But we'll see what basically happens with this. Very, very interesting day. But this is the kind of stuff that you can do when you're in a Elon's shoes, right? You can decide, oh, I'm going to take that over because I think it has number one more potential, and there is a risk that this could be misused and threaten the future of democracy globally. I mean, it's pretty nuts. It's pretty rad, to be fair. Yes, and if you haven't already, make sure that you do leave a like. This one literally was very, very much impromptu. So we're not going to stay in here that for much longer. Thank you so much for joining me anyway. I do appreciate it. It is a Thursday evening. You know what? My days are so muddled up. I don't even know. I know tomorrow's Friday, but I don't even know if it's a bank holiday tomorrow. I know it's bank holiday on Monday, but I'm still going to be working. Um, yeah, whatever you're doing, please make sure that you have a great time and try and relax, and hopefully we get some good weather and stuff like that. But thank you so much, guys, for joining. If you did like this, then obviously make sure that you share, make sure that you like. Also, if you haven't joined the Discord group, you can do that. It's the first link in the comments down below. I've got a freebie that I'm going to throw into the Discord group fairly soon. I'm just waiting for this to be delivered, actually. Um, so, yeah. All right. Cheers, guys. I appreciate every single one of you. Andy, really good to see you there, mate. And yes, have a good weekend, whatever you do.